Hello, it is me. I'm Read Odyssey. Alright. Dawn came up from the crotch. Off to a great start. Dawn came up from the crotch of her reclining, leaving her lord Tithonus, brilliant side, with fresh light in her arms for gods and men, and the master of heaven and high thunder, Zeus, went to his place among the gods assembled, hearing Athena tell Odysseus' woe. For she, being vexed that he was still sojourning on the sea chambers of Calypso, said. So basically, Dawn, everybody wakes up, dawn, whatever. And Zeus, he's like, okay, everybody. Okay, I should probably tilt that down a little. Okay, everybody. And then he gets all the gods together. And Athena, she has stuff to say because she still thinks Odysseus is with Calypso and is being like tortured, It's crazy. That didn't fix my hair at all. All right, there you go, everybody. Now I look much better. O Father Zeus, and gods in bliss forever, let no man holding scepter as a king think to be mild or kind or virtuous. Let him be cruel and practice evil ways. For those Odysseus ruled cannot remember the fatherhood and mercy of his reign. While he lives and grieves upon that island in thraldom to the Nymph, he cannot stir, cannot fare homeward, for no ship is left him, fitted with oars, no crewmen or companions to pull him on the broad back of the sea. And now murder is hatched on the high sea against his son, who has sought news of his father in the holy lands of Pylos and Lake Damon. So she's like, everybody else is like super mean, and they're like super violent, and Odysseus, he was like great. And everyone seems to forget that, Odysseus was mild, he was a good guy. And now all these suitors are planning to kill his son. What's up with that? And if it is a proper thing to do, but wait a while. Oh, sorry. That's the wrong part. To this, the summoner of cloud. Summoner of cloud is Zeus, by the way. To this, the summoner of cloud replied, my child, what odd complaints you let escape you? He said that before. It's like he keeps, good old Homer keeps copy and pasting what he said before in the book. Have you not yourself arranged this matter, as we all know, so that Odysseus will bring these men to book on his return? And are you not the one to give Telemachus a safe route for sailing? Let his enemies encounter no one and row home again. And so Zeus is like, are you an idiot? You're the one who set this up. You should be the one, like, saving him, dude. And so he turned then to his favorite son. He's not like other parents. He has a favorite child. And said, Hermes, you have so much practice on our missions. Go make it known to the softly braided nymph that we, whose will is not subject to error, order Odysseus home. Let him depart. But let him have no company, gods or men, only a raft that he must lash together. And after 20 days, worn out at sea, he shall make land upon the great isle, Scaria, of her kinsmen, the Phaeacians. Let these men take him to their hearts in honor, and birth him a ship, and send him home with gifts of garments, gold and bronze. So much he had not counted on from Troy, could he have carried home his share of plunder. His destiny is to see his friends again, under his own roof, in his father's country. No words were lost on Hermes the wayfinder, who bent to tie his beautiful sandals on, embroiseled, golden, that carry him over water or over endless land in a swish of the wind, and took the wand with which he charms asleep, or when he wills awake, the eyes of men. So wand in hand he paced into the air, shot from Pieria down to the sea level, and veered to skim the swell. A gull patrolling between the wave crests of the desolate sea will dip to catch a fish. and douse his wings. No higher above the white caps Hermes flew until the distant island lay ahead. Then rising shoreward from the violet ocean, he stepped up to the cave. Divine Calypso, the mistress of the isle, was now at home. Upon her hearthstone, a great fire blazing scented the farthest shores with cedar smoke, and smoke of thyme, and singing high and low in her sweet voice before her loom a weaving. She passed her golden shuttle to and fro. A deep wood grew inside, with summer leaves of aldern, black poplar, pungent cypress. Ornate birds have rested it there, stretched wings, horned owls, falcons, cormorants, long-tongued beach-combing birds, and followers of the sea. Around the smooth-walled cave, a crooking vine held purple clusters under a ply of green, and 4 springs bubbling up near one another, shallow and clear, took channels here and through beds of violets and tender parsley. Even a god who found this place would gaze and feel his heart beat with delight. So Hermes did. But when he had gazed his fill, he entered the wide cave. Now face to face, the magical Calypso recognized him, as all immortal gods now know one another. On sight, through seeming strangers, far from home. But he saw nothing of the great Odysseus, who sat apart as 1,000 times before, and racked his own heart groaning, with eyes wet scanning the bare horizon of the sea. Calypso, lovely nymph, seated her guest in a bright chair, all shimmering, and asked, in case you're confused about what's going on, Zeus is like, hey, go tell Calypso about it, and then make Odysseus come home on his own on a makeshift raft. Make him go to some place that'll give him gold, get his fair share. And so Hermes, he goes to Calypso, and he's like, wow, this is a beautiful place. And Calypso's like sewing something. She's like weaving some stuff up. And so now he's going to tell Odysseus to just make his makeshift raft and have no help from the gods and return to some random island. That's going to go over well. Maybe it will. It's probably going to go over well because, Odysseus doesn't want to anchor the gods anymore. Oh, Hermes, ever with your golden wand, what brings you to my island? Your awesome visits me in the past were few. Awesome. Back then it meant full of awe, not the sort of stupid connotation it has nowadays. Awesome visits in the past were few. Now tell me what request you have in mind, for I desire to do it if I can, and if it is a proper thing to do. But wait a while, and let me serve my friend. She drew a table of ambrosia near him, and stirred a cup of ruby-colored nectar, food and drink for the luminous wayfinder, who took both at his leisure, and replied, Goddess to God, you greet me, questioning me? Well, here's the truth for you in courtesy. Zeus made me come, and not my inclination. Who cares to cross that tract of desolation? The bitter sea, all mortar towns behind, where gods have beef and honors from mankind. But it is not to be thought of, and no use for any god to elude the will of Zeus. He notes your friend, most ill-starred by renown of all peers who fought for Priam's town. 9 years of war they had, before great Troy was down. Homing, they wronged the goddess with gray eyes, who made a black wind blow and the seas rise, in which his troops were lost, and all his gear, while esterlies and current washed him here. Now the command is, send him back in haste. His life may not in exile go to waste. His destiny, his homecoming, is at hand, when he shall see his dearest and walk on his own land. So, Calypso's like, hey, what's going on, Hermes? Why are you here? Let me just give you some stuff. Let me give you some food. Let me give you some tea or something. A nectar. And then he's like, okay, Zeus sent me. I didn't really want to be here, but, I can't disobey Zeus. He says, bring Odysseus back. He's the guy who's angered Athena, got washed up here without all of his stuff. That guy. Send him back. That goddess, most divinely made, shuddered before him, and her warm voice rose. Oh, you vile gods, in jealousy's supernal. You hate it when we choose to lie with men, immortal flesh by some dear mortal side. So radiant dawn once took to bed Orion, until you easeful gods grew peevish at it. And holy Artemis throned in gold, hunted down in Delos with her arrows. Then Demeter of the tasseled tresses yielded to Iasion, mingling and making love in a furrow 3 times plowed. But Zeus found out and killed him with a white-hot thunderbolt. So now you grudge me too, my mortal friend. But it was I who saved him, saw him straddle his own keelboard, the one man left afloat when Zeus rent wide his ship with chain lightning and overturned him in the wine dark sea. Then all his troops were lost, his good companions, but wind and current washed him here to me. I fed him, loved him, saying that he should not die nor grow old, ever, in all the days to come. But now there's no eluding Zeus' will. If this thing be ordained by him, I say, so be it. Let the man strike out alone on the vast water. Surely I cannot send him. I have no long-oared ships, no company to pull him on the broad back of the sea. My counsel he shall have, and nothing hidden to help him homeward without harm. And so Calypso is like, you're just jealous that I get this mortal hot guy. Like, I'm sleeping with the mortal hot guy. Like, Demeter. Like she did the same thing, and you guys just killed all those mortal men, and now you're just jealous that I get this guy, All right, fine. Send him out on his own. I can't send him anywhere. To this the Wayfinder made answer briefly. Thus you shall send him then, and show more grace in your obedience, or be chastised by Zeus. The strong god glittering left her as he spoke. Now her ladyship, having given heed to Zeus's mandate, went to find Odysseus in his stone seat to seaward, tear on tear brimming his eyes. The sweet days of his lifetime were running out in anguish over his exile. For long ago the nymph had ceased to please, though he fought shy of her and her desire. He lay with her each night, for she compelled him. But when day came, he sat on the rocky shore and broke his own heart groaning, with eyes wet, scanning the bare horizon of the sea. Now she stood here near him in her beauty, saying, "O forlorn man, be still. Here you need grieve no more. You need not feel your life consumed here. I pondered it, and I shall help you go. Come and cut down high timber for a raft or a flat boat. Make her broad-beamed and decked over, so you can ride her on the misty sea. Stores I shall put aboard for you, bread, water, and ruby-colored wine, to stay your hunger. Give you a sea cloak and a following wind, to help you homeward without harm, provided the gods who rule wide heaven wish it so. Stronger than I they are, in mind and power." And so she's like, fine, I'll do it. I'll just, help him out. And Hermes is like, yeah, do it, or else Zeus will chastise you. And she's like, oh, okay, I gotta go. And then she tells Odysseus that he's gotta go. He's gotta make his own raft, and he's gotta make it home. For all he had endured, Odysseus shuddered, but when he spoke, his words went to the mark. After these years, a helping hand. Oh, goddess, what guile is hidden here? A raft, you say, to cross the western ocean, rough water and unknown? Seaworthy ships that glory in God's wind will never cross it. I take no raft you grudge me out to sea, or yield me first a great oath if I do. It to work no more enchantment to my harm. So Odysseus is like, you crazy? I couldn't even get past that on a good ship. You expect me to get past that on a raft? Idiot. Stupid. At this, the beautiful nymph Calypso smiled and answered sweetly, laying her hand upon him. What a dog you are! And not for nothing learned, having the wit to ask this thing of me. My witness when be earth and sky, and dripping sticks that I swear by. The gay gods cannot swear more seriously. I have no further spells to work against you. But what I shall devise, and what I tell you, will be the same as if your need were mine. Fairness is all I think of. There are hearts made of cold iron, but my heart is kind. I think that was unintentional rhyming, although it might have been intentional. Swiftly she turned and led him to her cave, and they went in, the mortal and immortal. He took the chair left empty now by Hermes, where the divine Calypso placed before him victuals and drink of men. Then she sat down facing Odysseus, while her serving maids brought nectar and ambrosia to her side. Then each one's hand went out on each one's feast until they had their pleasure. And she said, "Son of Laertes, versatile Odysseus, after these years with me, you still desire your whole old home? Even so, I wish you well. If you could see it all before you go, all the adversity you face at sea, you would stay here and guard this house and be immortal, though you want her forever. That bride for whom you pine each day. Can I be less desirable than she is? Less interesting? Less beautiful? Can mortals compare with goddesses in grace and form?" And so, basically what's going on is Odysseus, Calypso is like, "Oh, you're so smart. I can't believe you even thought to question that." Okay, because I'm such a kind person, and I have so much stuff. I'll lead you back to my cave, give you some wine. And also, why don't you like me? Do you really like your wife better? Can she really be better than me? Like, I'm beautiful, man. I'm beautiful. I'm amazing. To this, the strategist Odysseus answered, and if you haven't noticed, I guess back in ancient Greek times, instead of just saying their names, they'd always have the same exact adjective repeated over and over again for that same person every time. And so for Telemachus, it's clear-headed. For like Menelaus, it's like red-haired. And then for Odysseus, it's strategist. They do that for everyone. It's kind of annoying, but that's how they did it back in Greece. "My lady goddess, here is no cause for anger. My quiet Penelope, how well I know, would seem a shade before your majesty, death and old age being unknown to you, while she must die. Yet it is true. Each day I long for home, long for the sight of home. If any god has marked me out again for shipwreck, my tough heart can undergo it. What hardship I have not long since endured in battle. Let the trial come." So Odysseus is like, no, you're fine. Yeah, you're great. But I still want to go home. I don't really care that it's hard. I want to go home. It's better at home. Now, as he spoke, the sun set. Dusk drew on, and they retired, this pair, to the inner cave to revel and rest softly, side by side. When dawn spread out her fingertips of rose, that's copy and paste again. They always say that when it's the break of dawn. When dawn spread out her fingertips of rose. Odysseus pulled his tunic and his cloak on, while the sea nymph, dressed in a silvery gown of subtle tissue, drew about her waist a golden belt and veiled her head, and then took thought for the great hearted hero's voyage. A brazen axe head first she had to give him, two-bladed and agreeable to the palm, with a smooth-fitting haft of olive wood. Next, a well-polished adze. I don't know what that is. Let's look it up. A tool similar to an axe. Adze. Used for cutting or shaping large pieces of wood. Interesting. She gave him an adze. And then she led him to the island's trip, where bigger timber grew. Besides the alder and poplar, tall pine trees, long dead in season, that would float him high, showing him in that place her stand of timber. The loveliest of nymphs took her way home. Now the man fell to chopping. When he paused, 20 tall trees were down. He lopped the branches, split the trunks, and trimmed his pincions true. Meanwhile, Calypso brought him an auger tool, with which he drilled through all his planks, then drove stout pins to bolt them, fitted side by side. a master shipwright, building a cargo vessel, lays down a broad and shallow hull, just so Odysseus shaped the bottom of his craft. He made his decking fast to close-set ribs, before he closed the side with longer planking. Then cut a mast pole and a proper yard, and shaped the steering oar to hold her steady. He drove long strands of willow in all the seams, to keep out waves, and ballasted with logs. As for a sail, the lovely nymph Calypso brought him a cloth, so he can make that too. Then he ran up his rigging, halyards, races, and hauled the boat on rollers to the water. So basically, he's a big manly man, lumberjack, and he cuts down some trees, and then he uses that to make a boat. And Calypso basically gave him everything to like cut everything down, and she also gave him cloth to make a mast, like the thing that the wind blows into. So now he's ready. Now he's ready, everybody. This was the fourth day, when he had all ready. On the fifth day, she sent him out to sea. But first she bathed him, gave him a scented cloak, and put on aboard a skin of dusky wine, with water in a bigger skin, and stored boiled meats and other victuals in a bag. Then she conjured a warm land breeze to blowing. Joy for Odysseus when he shook out sail. Now the great seaman, leaning on his oar, steered all the night unsleeping, and his eyes picked out the Pleiades, the laggard plowman, okay, I don't know, plowman. Okay, I was right. It was plowman. And the great bear, that some have called the Wain, pivoting in the sky before Orion. Of all the night's pure figures, she alone would never bathe or dip in the ocean stream. These stars the beautiful Calypso bade him hold on his left hand as he crossed the main. 17 nights and days in the open water he sailed, before a dark shoreline appeared. Scyria then came slowly into view, like a rough shield of a bull's hide on the sea. And so basically, he goes out, Calypso gives him a little bit of wind, and she gives him a bunch of food. Travels out for 17 days with beautiful stars, because Calypso gave him beautiful stars. And he made it to Scylla, which is where he was planned to go by the gods. But now the god of earthquakes, storming home over the mountains of Asia, the sunburned land, sighted him far away. The gods grew sullen and tossed his great hand, muttering to himself, "He is a pretty cruise. While I was gone, the gods have changed their minds about Odysseus. Look at him now, just offshore that island. What that frees him from the bondage of his exile. Still, I can give him a rough ride in, and will." So Poseidon, he was in the sunburnt lands, the sunburnt races, which I learned later was the Middle East or some parts of Africa. So he was away, he was feasting, he was having a good time. And during that time, Odysseus, he went away. And now Poseidon, he comes back at the exact right time to see Odysseus, like, reaching the shoreline. And so he's like, "Oh," and then he, like, kills him, or whatever it's going to happen next. Brewing high thunderheads, he churned the deep with both hands on his trident, called up wind from every quarter, and sent a wall of rain to blot out the sea in torrential night. Hurricane winds now struck from the south and east, shifting northwest in the great spume of seas, on which Odysseus's knees grew slack. His heart sickened, and he said within himself, "Rag of man that I am, is this the end of me? I fear the goddess told it all too well, predicting great adversity at sea, and far from home. Now all things bear her out. The whole grandeur of heaven, hooded so by Zeus in woeful cloud, and the sea raging under such winds. I'm going down, that's sure. How lucky those Danaans who were to perish on Troy's wide seaboard, serving the Atreidai. Would God I, too, had died there. Met my end that time the Trojans made so many casts at me when I stood by Achilles after death. I should have had a soldier's burial and praise from the Achaeans, not this choking waiting for me at sea, unmarked and lonely." So Odysseus he's kind of suicidal. He's like, "Oh, I wish I just died before so I didn't have to go through this." Because Poseidon's like, busting him up. He's like a bunch of waves. Makes it really hard. A great wave drove at him with toppling crest, spinning him round in one tremendous blow, and he went plunging overboard, the oar haft wrenched from his grip. A gust that came on howling at the same instant broke his mast in two, hurling his yard and sail far out to leeward. Now the big wave a long time kept him under, helpless to surfless, held by tons of water, tangled too by the sea cloak of Calypso. Long until he came up spouting brine, with streamlets gushing from his head and beard. But still bethought him, half drowned as he was, to flounder for the boat and get a handhold into the bilge, to crouch there, foiling death. Across the foaming water, to and fro, that boat careered like a ball of tumbleweed, blown on the autumn plains, but intact still. So the winds drove this wreck over the deep, east and north wind, and then the south and west, coursing each in turn to the brutal Harry. But Ino saw him, Ino, Cadmos' daughter, slim-legged, lovely, slim-legged, lovely, once an earthling girl, now in the seas in Nereid, Leucothea, touched by Odysseus' painful buffeting, she broke the surface like a diving bird to rest upon this tossing raft and say, "Oh, forlorn man, I wonder why the earth shaker, Lord Poseidon, holds this fearful grudge, father of all your woes. He will not drown you, though, despite his rage. You seem clear-headed still. Do what I tell you. Shed that cloak. Let the gale take your craft, and swim for it. Swim hard to get ashore upon Scuria, yonder, where it is fated that you find a shelter. Here, make my veil your sash. It is not mortal. You cannot now be drowned or suffer harm. Only the instant you lay hold of earth, discard it, cast it far, far out from shore, in the wine-dark sea again, and turn away." After she had bestowed her veil, the Nereid dove like a gull to windward, where dark wave-side closed over her whiteness. But in perplexity, Odysseus said to himself, his great heart laboring. So basically what's going on, Odysseus is going to die. He's drowning. He's having a bad time. But then this Ino person, I don't know who they are, but they see him. It's a earthling girl, which means probably human. So it's a human person. And she has this cloak or veil. She has this like the wedding gowns, like those veil. Sorry, I said veil. That's stupid. It's veil. She has a veil. You wear it. You can't drown. It's like covering your face, keeps all the water out. And then once you're done with it, just throw it out to sea again. You know. And so now Odysseus, he's kind of confused. He says, "Oh, damned confusion. Can this be a ruse to trick me from the boat for some god's pleasure? No, I'll not swim. With my own eyes I saw how far the land lies that she calls my shelter. Better to do the wise thing, as I see it. While this poor planking holds, I stay aboard. I may ride out the pounding of the storm, or if she cracks up, take the water then. I cannot think it through a better way." But even while he pondered and decided, the god of earthquake heaved a wave against him, high as a roof tree, and of awful gloom. A gust of wind, hitting a pile of chaff, will scatter all the parched stuff far and wide. Just so, when his gigantic, I almost say gargantuan, but it's gigantic, billow struck the boat's big timbers flew apart. Odysseus clung to a single beam, like a jockey riding. Meanwhile, stripping Calypso's cloak away, he slung around his chest the veil of Ino, and plunged head first into the sea. His hands went out to stroke, and he gave a swimmer's kick. But the strong earthshaker had him under his eye, and nodded as he said, go on, wander the high seas this way, take your blows. Before you join that race, the gods have nurtured, nor will you grumble even then, I think, for want of trouble. And so basically he's like, I don't really trust her, so I'm just gonna stick it out. But then he can't stick it out because Poseidon drowned him to death. And then After that, Poseidon, and then after that, he puts on the veil. He like goes against his previous plan, and then Poseidon's like, okay, fine, but like you're not gonna last that long, like you're never gonna doubt the gods again. Whipping his glossy team, he rode off to his glorious home in IJ, but Zeus's daughter Athena encountered him. She checked the course of all the winds but one, commanding them, "Be quiet and go to sleep." Then sent a long swell running under a norther to bear the prince Odysseus back from danger, to join the Phaeacians, people of the sea. 2 nights, 2 days in the solid deep sea swell he drifted, many times awaiting death, until with shining ringlets in the east, the dawn confirmed the third day. Breaking clear over a high and windless sea, and mounting a rolling wave, he caught a glimpse of land. What a dear welcome thing life seems to children whose father, in the extremity, recovers after some weakening and malignant illness. His pangs are gone, the gods have delivered him. So dear and welcome to Odysseus, the sight of land, of woodland on that morning, and made him swim again, to get a foothold on solid ground. But when he came in earshot, he heard the trampling roar of sea on rock, where combers, rising shoreward, thudded down on the sucking ebb, all sheeted with salt foam. Here were no coves or harborage or shelter, only steep headlands, rock fallen in reefs and crags. Crags? Odysseus's knees grew slack, his heart faint. Heaviness came over him. So he drifted around in the water with so Athena, she gave him a wind and helped him go to shore, but he was still out there. 2 days, guys. 2 days. Dos dias. But then after 2 days, he finally saw land, and he's like, "Oh yeah!" But then, there's still a lot of waves, and he was gonna die if he just went straight up there. And so now he needed to get he started to become faint of heart, and he started to get disencouraged. I forgot the word. That's embarrassing. Defeated is a word. So he started to feel defeated. But then he says, "A cruel turn this. Never had I thought to see this land, but Zeus has let me see it, and let me too traverse the western ocean, only to find no exit from these breakers. Here are sharp rocks offshore, and the sea a mother rushing around them, rock face rising sheer from deep water. Nowhere could I stand up on my 2 feet and fight free of the welter. No matter how I try it, the surf may throw me against the cliffside. No good fighting there. If I swim down the coast, outside the breakers, I may find shelving shore and quiet water. But what if another gale comes on to blow, and I go cursing out to sea once more? Or then again, some shark of Amphitrite may hunt me, sent by the genius of the deep. I know how he who makes earth trembles hates me." So basically he's like, "Oh, I didn't think I was gonna make it, but I did make it. But it's like there's no way around it. How ironic. Well, maybe if I swam down the coast, I might be able to make it. But probably Poseidon's, he's still gonna hunt me, so it's still gonna be like, no, kind of difficult." During this meditation, a heavy surge was taking him. In fact, straight on the rocks. He had been flayed there, and his bones broken. And had not great-eyed Athena instructed him, he gripped a rock ledge with both hands in passing, and held on, groaning as the surge went by, to keep clear of its breaking. Then the backwash hit him, ripping him under and far out. An octopus, when you drag one from his chamber, comes up with suckers full of tiny stones. Odysseus left the skin of his great hands torn on that rock ledge, as the waves submerged him. And now at last Odysseus would have perished, battered inhumanely, but he had the gift of self-possession from great-eyed Athena. So when the backwash spewed up against him, he swam out and along and scanned the coast for some land spit that made a breakwater. Lo and behold, the mouth of a calm water at length came into view, with level shores unbroken, free from rock, shielded from wind, by far the best place he had found. But as he felt the current flowing seaward, he prayed in his heart, "Oh, hear me, Lord of the stream! How sorely I depend upon your mercy. Derelict as I am by the sea's anger, is he not scared even to the gods, the wandering man who comes, as I have come, in weariness before your knees, your waters? Here is your servant, Lord. Have mercy on me." And so Odysseus, he's like, he almost dies. He gets crashed into some rocks. But because Athena gave him some like foresight, he was able to grab onto the rocks and make his way around it. And now that he has so much foresight and so much power given to him by Athena, who's like a real help to him, he figures out a way to easily get in. But he still asks for help from Poseidon to just like calm down, Poseidon. Like just take a little break. Now, even as he prayed, the tide at ebb had turned, and the river god made quiet water, drawing him into safety in the shallows. His knees buckled, his arms gave way beneath him. All vital force now conquered by the sea. Swollen from head to foot he was, and sea water gushed from his mouth and nostrils. There he lay, scarce drawing breath, unstirring, deathly spent. In time, as air came back into his lungs and warmth around his heart, he loosed the veil, letting it drift away from on the estuary, downstream to where a white wave took it under, and Eno's hands received it. Then the man crawled to the riverbank among the reeds, where face down he could kiss the soil of the earth, in his exhaustion murmuring to himself. Also, Eno is not a human, obviously. She's just an earthbound god who just lives in the earth. Or maybe she's not a god, she might be a nymph, but I'm pretty sure she's a god. What more can this hulk suffer? What comes now? In vigil, through the night, here by the river, how can I not succumb, being weak and sick, to the night's damp and horror frost of the morning? The air comes cold from rivers before dawn. But if I climb the slope and fall asleep in the dark forest undergrowth, supposing cold and fatigue will go, and sweet sleep come, I fear I make the wild beast easy prey. So basically, he's like, he makes it, and then he's like, he's dying, but he like soon recovers, and then he's like, okay, I need a rest, but like, where do I do it? Like, it's almost certain that I'll just be eaten alive by animals. But this seemed best to him as he thought it over, to sleep in the jungle. He made his way to a grove about the water and on open ground, and crept under twin bushes grown from the same spot, olive and wild olive, a thicket proof against the stinging wind or sun's blaze, fine soever the needling sunlight, nor could a downpour wet it through, so dense those plants were interwoven. Here Odysseus tunneled, and raked together with his hands a wide bed, for a fall of leaves was there, enough to save 2 men or maybe 3. On a winter night, a night of bitter cold, Odysseus' heart laughed when he saw his leaf bed, and down he lay, heaping more leaves above him. A man in a distant field, no hearth fires near, will hide a fresh brand in his bed of embers, to keep a spark alive for the next day. So in the leaves Odysseus hid himself, while over him Athena showered sleep that his distress should end. And soon, in quiet sleep she sealed his cherished eyes. And so basically, Odysseus is like, I'm just gonna sleep. And so he covers himself in like brush or like olive. And Athena gives him the power to sleep. And like she makes it easy for him to sleep. And he probably survives, if I'm gonna be honest. Okay, so what happened in this chapter? Athena is like, hey, we should Athena brings up the Odysseus problem again, and then Zeus is like, okay, Hermes, go to Calypso, tell them to allow Odysseus to come back on his own raft that he made. And so Hermes goes to Calypso. Calypso's like, oh, what do you want? You're just jealous of me and him. You don't actually want him to go. Ugh. And then Hermes is like, but if Zeus is gonna chastise you. That's like my favorite line of the entire book. And so Calypso was like, oh. And then she went to Odysseus, and she's like, oh, you gotta leave on your own raft, but I'll help you out. And so he leaves, he like chops down wood, he makes his own raft, then he leaves on that raft after she gave him like cloth and clothes. And she gives him a wind so that he's able to go out and leave. And so he gets pretty far. He sees land like 17 days in. 17, I think. And then Poseidon, on his way back from like the Middle East or Africa, he's like, oh my God, what's going on here? And then he like tries to kill Odysseus. But Odysseus, he had help from Ino, and Ino gave him this veil, which is like a wedding thing, like those the wives wear. And he's given that, and that allows him to breathe or like not drown. That's the best way to put it. And so he's able to drift along for like 2 days, and with Athena's help, he's able to reach the shore, and then able to sleep under some brush so that he's not eaten alive. And that's what happened in the chapter. That was kind of a boring one, I'm gonna be honest, but you know, yeah, it's pretty good.